Welcome to Echoes of Understanding with Steph and Pete. We are two neurodivergent people who have been through our own journeys of growth and self discovery. As coaches, we have real conversations about life, personal growth, and seeing the world through different perspectives. We're all about nuance, empathy, and a lot of fun. Thanks for joining. Hello, welcome to Echoes of Understanding with Steph and Pete. I am Stephanie Ann Webb.
I am Peter Carrington, Basin Journal. What's up? What are we doing? Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday.
Yeah.
Uh, Yeah, I don't know what we're doing. We can't think of a specific topic, so we said let's just
Yep.
chat. Oh,
Mm.
talk.
Talk.
I don't think you like the word chat. Or was it chatty?
Yeah, yeah, chatty is not that great. Chat is all right. Chat is a
Oh,
description, you know. People
yeah.
like chatty to me is what chicks do, I guess. I mean,
Yeah.
chatty.
I know you I said that one time and you said, "Oh, guys aren't chatty."
I mean, that's not the way, that's just my perception. And maybe that's what's been, kind of
How you view.
my neural pathways of what masculine versus feminine, masculine versus feminine, Superman versus Clark Kent. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a thing that you bring up sometimes. Do you want to mention like talk about what that means to you?
Oh, yeah. So I gave a whole talk on it, actually, a whole podcast, which you'll find on Noon Vibe, which we're both hosts on. Um, yeah, I gave a talk on Superman versus Clark Kent and talking about masculine and feminine energy and how the two are polar opposites. There's like dichotomy between Superman and Clark Kent when they're actually the same person, obviously. And I played a little clip from Kill Bill about how Bill was describing Superman always being Superman. When he woke up in the morning, he was still Superman, but Clark Kent was the costume. Clark Kent was the persona he put out to the world, and Clark Kent is a like beta male personified. And but I said in that talk like the kryptonite for them both was Lois Lane, right? She was kind of the deciding factor, right, for them both, and yeah. So I just thought it was very interesting and how the interactions between the two opposing personality traits of Superman, which is him in his natural state, Superman, then Clark Kent, and how they dealt with or how they interacted with the feminine, very strong feminine woman of Lois Lane. And I saw that, I don't know, I saw it as a kid. I'm like, I was like rooting for Clark Kent to say, grow a pair. Of course, I didn't know that language when I was a kid, but I was like, come on, dude, like, just tell her you're Superman and take her for a flight. Be happy, you live happily ever after. But I think, I think one of the subjects we are going to talk about was that, right? And the emasculation of men in society, Western culture. And how women particularly want like a warmer, more empathetic, open and honest man. And that's cool. I think there's a place for that. But like, that's not the kind of women, I mean, that's not the kind of guy that women marry or stay with, in my opinion. That's the kind of guy that gets friend zoned, right? And there's nothing wrong with, see, here we go. We got, I like that look. See,
It
there's
depends.
nothing wrong with being friend zoned. This is a generalization I'm making, a generalization.
Yeah.
Everybody's different. I know you're different, but I just think generally speaking, yeah, like they all want that. But when they get that, they're like, man up, dude. Like, and I don't know. I think somewhere in the middle of the two of between Clark Kent and Superman is kind of the sweet spot. I did talk about that, leaning towards Superman, of course, because that's how we're wired. And not only is it unflattering to be any other way, but it's unnatural.
Hmm.
It's not a political statement, not ideology. It's an observation that I have growing up. in the 70s and growing up in the West and watching Superman and Clark Kent.
I always liked Clark Kent better. I always found
Oh,
that,
wow.
like, for me personally, I don't know, and maybe like this is my personality, right?
Hmm.
Um, I always thought I'm more attracted to Clark Kent than Superman. Superman's too perfect. He's the ideology. Is that the
Hmm.
right? He was like, Lois was like, oh, wow, Superman. But Clark Kent
Hmm.
was him trying to be like human. And I just thought Lois, just like Clark,
Do you
you know?
think Lo do you think Lois would have married Clark?
Well, in Lois and Clark with
Well,
Dean
yeah, in
Kane,
general,
and
like Lois
they
Lane.
did get married, and she did know who he was. Uh,
Hmm.
as
Oh,
for
just,
the actual Superman storyline, I'm not sure.
mhm.
But
Yeah.
well, that's yeah, you know. But see, that's the. I remember like hearing guys say women don't want a nice guy, but this is the question though.
I don't know
What
about that.
does what does nice mean?
Yeah, I think
So
women want nice guys, don't they?
yes, but guys would say, "Oh, I'm a nice guy, and I get friend zoned, just like you're talking about." And they say, "Well, women don't want a nice guy; they want the rebel, they want the bad guy." And I'm thinking, well, okay, it depends what nice means to you, because nice could mean that you don't have a backbone, that you're too people pleasing. Does the guy think I am nice? Is it like I'm a kind person and they want the rebel bad boy?
Hmm.
Maybe some do based on, their own experiences, their own woundings.
Yeah.
Or are you thinking that I'm just a nice guy, but really uh you don't stand up for yourself or you don't have a backbone or all of these things. And that's where it's like, well, what do you mean by nice? Because that for anybody
Hmm.
is not appealing, right? So it's like when people say, like I used to say, Peter, I'm a nice person. Well, I was a people pleasing person. So
Right.
I gave in and I didn't stand up for myself. And I thought, well, what's wrong with me? Why don't people treat me well? I'm nice. No, I
Mhm.
was given in to what other people wanted me to be. And that's not attractive if you're always people pleasing.
I agree.
Does that, how do you think about that? Well, you
I think it's
agree,
right.
but
Yeah, I would agree with it. I was just busy like trying to load this up. This is the clip I was talking about.
oh,
Superman didn't become Superman. Superman was born Superman. When Superman wakes up in the morning, he's Superman. His alter ego is Clark Kent. His outfit with the big red S, that's the blanket he was wrapped in as a baby when the Kents found him. Those are his clothes. What Kent wears, the glasses, the business suit, that's the costume. That's the costume Superman wears to blend in with us. Clark Kent is how Superman views us. And what are the characteristics of Clark Kent? He's weak. He's unsure of himself. He's a coward. Clark Kent is Superman's critique on the whole human race.
Now I kind of feel bad for Clark Kent, right? I'm not so sure I agree with Bill, obviously, right? I think that it's a little bit extreme, but I just found that very interesting to hear during the movie, and it just made a lot of sense. Like some people will talk about their favorite superhero being Superman because he is always that. It's not when he puts on the costume and flies away or puts on the cape, he's always that. That's who he is at his core. And I don't know, I thought that was very interesting. But going back to like Lois Lane and Clark Kent. I mean, the Superman I remember growing up with, even like when Christopher Reeves played Superman, I think he was definitely the fumbling, bumbling idiot. And I get why, but like Lois was always like very dismissive of him. Oh, Clark, okay to hang out, be a sidekick, be a friend, and but that's it. Um, I just thought it was very interesting, and I still do. Obviously, so much so that I gave an hour talk on it.
Yeah.
And one of the things I said was, for me, the sweet spot is a little bit of both.
Hmm.
Because if you're of the illusion like that, there's not feminine and masculine energy in the universe, you're just misinformed, or you don't know yet, right? So I think it obviously the hybrid of both uh, is kind of the sweet spot for me.
Well, and I never saw the Christopher Reeve Superman movies.
Because you're a kid, because you're young,
And we were not really into them, but my first experience watching was Lois and Clark with Dean
right?
Cain and
Yeah,
Terry Hatcher in the 90s. And
right.
then, of course, Smallville. I watched that as well.
There was also Smallville. I never saw that.
So it's like based on the the what the director and the writers and how they wanted you to see it. So
Yeah.
now in Lois and Clark, yeah, Clark was kind of fumbling. But actually, this is the fascinating thing. I think Lois, you're right. She was dismissive of Clark because he was like kind of, oh, okay. And he was like nerdy with the
Goofy.
glasses.
Yeah.
But when she found out, I don't, okay, oh, so this was so long ago. I don't know if I remember exactly how it worked, but was she falling for Clark and then she found out he was Superman? Or was it when she found out he was Superman, she fell for him? I don't remember. However,
At least I would guess the latter.
probably. But for her, it was bringing those two together to,
Hmm.
because if it's just Superman, he's too perfect, right? If it's just Clark Kent, she's like, I don't see him as that. But bring it together,
Hmm.
and they made that nice couple.
Yeah.
And I always felt like,
So,
of course, I love romance. So I was like, oh, they're so sweet.
so what I also talked about though is that like Superman probably would not have been a good dad because he probably would have never been home. I don't see him as that warm, empathetic, come sit on my lap type of dad. Like he's the guy you want standing in front of you if something or someone's coming through the door. But that whole persona would maybe be a dad that's a never home, obviously, right? Out saving the world, but it's not like the dad that makes his work or his vocation first space in his life before anything, including his family. He's a workaholic, right? And in the accumulation of more wealth, power, things, whatever it might be, and and neglects his marriage and his children, if he has children. And so I think that's there's something to be said there as well.
Do you
So that's why I
think
feel like the hybrid or is kind of the sweet spot for me, somewhere in the middle.
that must be challenging then for men too, because you're expected to be so many different things. You're expected to be
Mm,
very stoic. You're expected to be like the hero, and you're expected to be the family man and empathetic, like work and then come home and do all the things as well. And if you're growing up kind of being taught like be like
mm,
this and you don't know how to maybe be more empathetic or
yeah,
you don't know how to talk healthy
right.
communication,
Yeah,
then it's hard because you're just like, well, I'm not supposed to talk about
yeah.
feelings, but it's like, well, what do you mean talk about feelings? Do you mean like a healthy communication, or it's not like you have to talk about your feelings in the way what women do. So
Mm,
there must be some sort of confusion with regards to that.
could be. You know, I'm laughing to myself because as you're talking, as you're saying what you're saying about guys communicating, I'm just like, mm-hmm, ah, mm, mm-hmm, yeah, like that's. and you're like going off, right? You're going whole, this whole wonderful speech and breaking everything down. And I'm just kind of like, yeah, whatever, dude. Okay, I gotta go. I'm going golfing or whatever. But I think that's definitely part of it. I think it's tough. It's tough because I don't think I know that the lines have been crossed. How do I know that? Um, in a very sweeping generalization, the women are women who say, yeah, I want a guy that's more empathetic. I want a guy that talks about his feelings more. I want a guy that's going to listen more. Those same women like are repulsed by guys that are too open, maybe and honest, or too like, I don't want to say clingy. I'm just like just very like pouring out their hearts because like there's something inside of them, right? That causes them to say, well, wait, something's not right with this. This is not, it's beyond being taught. I really believe that. It's who we are as energetic beings, right? And I think that can't be dismissed. And I think a guy that has a woman who's very has a lot of masculine energy for whatever reason. Maybe that's what she was shown growing up. Maybe she's been a single mom. Maybe she grew up in a home where there wasn't a dad and mom had to step up and be that um, all things to all children. And, or maybe she's a very domineering type A personality mom, and the dad was kind of more submissive. Mom wore the pants. I think for a lot of women, um, that might be challenging to have a guy who's more masculine, obviously. I don't think they get very far at all, at all. And with my neurodivergent stuff, I probably lost you as well as I lost myself and whoever may be listening in that. But do you catch the general idea of what I just said?
Yes. Although I would say, like, some people are just, well, I don't know. Uh,
Mhm.
but born, like, I have a friend who's very butch and she just has that masculine energy. She always has. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like nature versus nurture. Like, what? Yeah. Do we really know? I don't know. Um,
Who knows?
I don't know.
And like I
But
said, it's a generalization, right? There's
yeah,
always exceptions to rules, your friend being one of them.
fascinating.
And we can probably name 10 of them. We didn't even think very hard about it. But I just think as a general rule, it's been my observation that that is the way things are. And as you, if you get a woman who maybe has a little bit of that masculine or maybe a little bit more communication from her guy, and her guy says finally like, okay, I'm going to be all of that. Um, I think it becomes problematic after a while. I think the mystique of that man becomes it becomes erased. There's no more mystique about it. There's no more that masculine mystique about him. And and I think, right? And I've heard women looking other places for that. Whether they act on things or not, they're looking for it, whether it's be the workplace or online, sometimes somebody they know in their friend group that they look up to and admire now, right? Because they're looking for that energy because they're attracted to that energy. And that has nothing to do with anything but procreation and survival, right? You mate with with the strongest, and that's how you. That's that kind of how we're woven as mammals, and definitely as human beings. Um, in that, I was just trying to be very respectful of folks who may not believe in a higher power, and I don't know that I have to be. In fact, I'm okay with their position, but if they think that my position is not good, I find that to be disrespectful and just false. So with that, we're created in a certain way. Generally speaking, generally speaking. So that's kind of where I'm at with that.
I guess
Challenge
one
it,
thing,
please.
one thing that I've wanted to always kind of, whenever this comes up when we're talking about it, it's
Yeah.
that I want to know, like, what does that mean? Because when you said if a guy is showing his feelings too much, well, when I perceive something like that, and people say, well, women are like that, and I've told you this before, when I'm a shriveling mess crying, uh, that's not like at work, right? I broke down crying quite a bit, or generally I did at times because I just would have triggers and I didn't know what it was. And I thought, well, I'm just a woman, I'm just like this. No, 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 no. There was something off. So as
Right.
humans, we're not supposed to be shriveling messes of crying. And so I
So,
kind of want
so
to know, like, what do you mean when you say men sharing their feelings too much? It's like it's not that
yeah, well,
that's in
there's
humanity.
two sides for that. And as you're
Yeah.
speaking, it's a perfect example.
Okay.
As you're saying that, right? I'm wanting to go to that office and see what the problem may be, or who may be giving you discomfort or disrespecting you, or maybe who's being unfair as a supervisor or a boss. Like I want to handle that. Like that's just that's that inside of me that just sees that and says, "No, wait a minute, mm-mm, not to my staff. You're not doing that. I want to know about that."
It wasn't
I
actually
understand.
okay.
I understand what you're saying, that that's not what was happening. And I may learn that, right? And I'm learning that right now. But just the fact that you were uncomfortable and it was coming from somewhere else, I'm going to look at that somewhere else, right? Because I'm in protection mode. Like that's what it is. And I literally feel that deeper than I can feel my body right now. That's in my very essence. The part of me that will be gone long after this shell is perhaps 6 feet under, if I'm lucky enough for it to go and not go somewhere else. Like that's the part of me that wants to immediately investigate that and see, because it's a problem. I want to know what the problem is because it's affecting my pack, my clan, my person. You know what I mean? Like that's where I'm at. So talking through it, I understand that that may just be where you're coming from and the stuff that you go and you just like you get overwhelmed very easily, perhaps. You're a highly sensitive person. I get that may be all part of it without even knowing the story. But that part of me doesn't know that yet. That part of me has to listen to that. And I would do that. I'm not going to fly off the handle, but I'm just all of a sudden very acutely aware. And if you want me to ever listen to a story, start up like that, because then I'm plugged in because I want to know where it's going. Like seriously, like that's how it goes for me. But to I guess answer the second part, well, I gave you two-part answer or response. The second response, which is to your initial asking, is I don't know. I think you do need someone that's not going to be like, get over yourself, or you're too, why are you so emotional? Like, why are you doing this? Like, you'll get over it, or it's not a big deal. Like, disregarding your feelings and minimizing them, or maybe there's comparison. Are you kidding me? Like your older boss was a real jerk off, right? Remember the guy you used to work for? Or that's nothing. What about Sally? Sally works for, you name it. So
You like that name, Sally.
because I don't know a Sally, and I know
Okay.
it's not going to offend anybody. Sally and Samantha. Samantha's the body pillow. Yeah. So I don't know if that makes sense, but that's
Yeah, it
what.
does. And that's why you can see why I don't know why, but you being a police
Yeah.
officer,
Mhm.
you can see that
Yeah.
of why you would be one, right?
Interesting. Like interesting you say that because I think I became a police officer because I was that, or I am that. And police officer became what I do as a result of being what I was and what I've always been.
Yeah. And
Sense.
you said on one of your live talks that you were that person who wanted to stay with somebody to make sure that they were okay. And
Yeah.
that if I've not really had much experience being around police officers. Um, but I know if there was that one person, because if they're standoffish and like aggressive, that's not my kind of thing. But if there's that one person and I'm
Mhm.
struggling, I'm like, I'd want somebody like you there because you would know I'm going through something.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but what I was kind of saying was, so I would have, it was in my 30s, I would
Mhm.
just burst into tears for no reason, apparently. Like somebody would say, what did the customer say to you? And I'm like, nothing. I don't know what's happening. But it was
Mm.
because there was trauma trapped in my body and it would just come
Yeah.
out and people didn't know what to do with me and they thought it was a situation and it was literally nothing that happened. I was just so about to burst. And I couldn't even hold in the tears anymore because people say, "Can't you wait till you get to the bathroom to cry?" I
Hmm.
couldn't. I would burst into tears in front of customers because I worked at a branch as a teller. I did not know what was happening with me. And that's why I started going to therapy.
Good.
And then I realized over the years, oh, I got a lot of stuff trapped in me, like,
Yeah.
religious trauma and stuff that I've now understood,
Hmm.
but I didn't know what it was. But what I'm trying to say is, I think eh, even as a female, that's not acceptable. I mean, some people might, oh, she's a crazy female. That's what they do. But if
Hmm.
that were to happen to a man, which they get even more,
Some of them do, but not all.
they would get even more like, oh, you can't be like that. But generally, men wouldn't cry. They'd get angry, as far as my understanding.
Mhm.
Um, it means something's wrong. It means something
Yeah.
is going on. And I am now in a more healed place. I don't break down crying just for no reason because I'm like, that doesn't affect me like it did 10 years ago,
Good.
right?
That's
But it meant something was off, not that I was a female. So I sometimes I think that people can misunderstand that, if that
hmm
makes sense.
Makes perfect sense. Makes perfect
Cool.
sense.
I like that. I like when we make sense and we understand.
No, when it makes sense, when it makes sense, it makes sense. I often think of like guys in recovery. Like if you don't know me now, you know I'm in recovery for more than a decade now, and a lot of guys who go through recovery, right? They get involved with what they get involved with because of a lot of trauma, perhaps they've been holding on to instead of like releasing it. They self-soothe or self-medicate. But when they get into recovery, right, they may have a wife, family. When they get into recovery, they start to open up, hopefully, right? And all of a sudden, for the first time, perhaps in their lives, they felt safe around other people, other men, other women to start sharing some of the deeper things, right? Some of the things that might have been affecting them. Then they go home, right? And then then they want to share with the world. Well, first of all, not everything is for everybody. Yes, not even your wife and kids. Yes, not even your wife. Um, And too much is too much because I've heard from spouses like, okay, enough is enough. I'm glad they're in recovery. I'm glad they're no longer drinking or popping pills. But like, just enough is enough. Like every time I turn around, they're wanting to, um, speak about something and get so deep with it, or, they're crying or getting choked up or getting too sentimental. And I think I like them better the other way sometimes. Like I do hear that. Like I'm not making that ish up. Like that really happens. And it happens on the other side of it too. There's some very cold women, right? Who, because of trauma, might have had the opposite reaction that you were having. Like you just let it go out that way, and other women may close up completely and are just like hard as a rock. They don't want to let anybody in, and that's it, right? And they may be the sweetest person out in the world up to a certain degree, but in that relationship, that significant other relationship, it's a different ballgame altogether. Like they're okay out there, right? And I can even have a best friend or a woman, a bestie or whatever. But like being in the same home, being in a relationship, committed relationship, like that's where the line is drawn. And they may be very cold. And that's very loving and affectionate. And some guys need that. I don't care who you are. Like to a degree, we need a woman who is physically affectionate and shows up in that way for us. Even if it's false sometimes, because it strokes our ego, right? And our ego is not always a bad thing, because that same ego is that part of me that will stand in front of you when something's coming through a door. Always use that, but and that part is very easy to satisfy, right? You stroke that ego a little bit, man, and feed him like good. And just like when he walks in, maybe just say like, you look at him like you're my world, and that's it. And then we're going to go out and make the next six figures for you because that's just how it goes. We're going hunting. Um, but now I'm way off. I'm way off with my ADHD. Stand by.
You were talking about when men are going through recovery and they
Yeah.
want to come home and share
Yeah. They overshare. Yeah.
overshare. But
And
see,
I tell them like that's not the form, like that's the place to do it is right here when we're doing step work, dude, or in our men's group or in just our regular, hybrid group, general men and women. That's the place to do it, maybe. Or if it's deeper and you feel that therapy can help, like I'm really a big proponent on therapy. I will refer people to therapy, and one of the things I ask, have you ever been in therapy? Do you think you need to? And then we'll revisit it later if I think it's appropriate. But
yeah.
yeah, so
Well, it was interesting. I tend to overshare. I have for a long time. I used to be very quiet, didn't tell a whole lot of people things. And then I started, as I started becoming more outgoing, I started then realizing I was oversharing a lot.
yeah.
And I was told that, but then because I felt so much freer than keeping everything in. But after a while, I realized this is unhealthy. And people stopped listening and they're like, oh, you're coming out with all your trauma at me, right?
Hmm.
And I remember a few years ago, I was attending this one church and I met a woman who she was also like very similar to me personality wise. And I just started sharing with her. And she said, you have to talk things out to understand it, don't you?
Mm,
And I said, oh, is that why?
beautiful. I love
I
that.
did.
That's great.
And I
Yeah.
realized because I very much observe people's body language. So I'd be like, okay, this person is not enjoying what I'm saying, or
Mm.
I'm saying too much. But it wasn't
Do you
until she said
know
that
when that happens because you just have to get it out, or do you like scale back if you notice?
I would kind of scale back.
Yeah, that's
But
good.
for me, in how I work through things, I talk
Mhm.
it out. So I might just go blah 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 blah. And I know people will say, well, Stephanie, you need to do this and this. And I get, no, I'm trying. Now I understand
Mhm.
what it is because I'm like, I just need to say this out loud. Can
Yeah,
you just listen?
right.
Um, but I also, it's like, don't do that with everybody. So coming back to the
Mhm.
people coming out of recovery, maybe all of a sudden they just go, I can talk about things and I can share,
Yeah,
but it's not in the, not everyone is ready for it or can deal with it.
right.
And that's where it takes that. But it's so understandable because
Hmm.
yeah, you're dealing with the things from your past and the reasons why you started using
Yeah.
or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always ask if there's a significant other involved. I work with both men and women, mostly men, but I always ask, would they be okay having joint session together and maybe one separate, so I can kind of get a better sense of how I can serve them and get them through what I have to get through.
Is
My
somebody
left eye.
walking outside?
Yeah, it's just like you know what? It's like they say, I don't know who told me this, but they say like people, like men especially, will choose, I guess women too, will choose dogs or pets that fit their personality. And I'm getting a Belgian Malinois. If you know anything about that breed, they're kind of nuts, right? But it's just misplaced energy. You talk about ADHD and spasmatic, like they are a ball of fired energy, and it just goes. They're like very observant. Any little thing they're on, so it's just automatic. I see something out of the corner of my eye. I look. When I look at a Belgian Malinois, I'm like, I get you.
Because
Like you
every time
picked up that one thing, and then you got a shoe, and then that's not good. Then you got that, and you saw someone come. Like I get that. I like that's me. Like, yeah, come on home. So
every
that's
time you're looking out the window, I'm like, is he something caught his attention? Is he paying
yeah.
attention to what I'm saying?
What else do you know that's doing that? A dog, right? If you have a dog, some dogs do that, right?
Yeah.
But especially like high prey drive dogs, they're gonna do that. They're gonna notice stuff. That's kind of how I am. I laugh at myself because ever since someone told me about that, I'm like, really? Let me think about this for a second. Like, oh yeah, that's exactly right. So yeah, that's what it was.
There
And
was
then it's odd because if there wasn't a window there, I'd be locked in, right? Like you were like there was a red dot on your head, right? But if there's not, there's too much going on here, right? And even as I'm talking to you, my whiteboard right above the dual monitors, and this camera, is catching my peripheral. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, is that a that's an orange one. I didn't, that means the arc. I didn't do that yesterday. Oh, ish. And the other one's all blue and like this, just because that's my thing. So that's all perception and whatnot. Um,
So we need
but
to
I,
put you in a room of nothing else but a camera with me in
I
there.
do very well with that. I do very well with that. With no windows, I know there's not, I can see whatever's coming in. Like there's only one door. I know that's, if something's coming, it's coming that way. And I don't say all that. It's just instantaneous. Like that's how I do. I don't sit with my back. If I go to a restaurant, never sit with my back to the door. Um, yeah.
I was just thinking, can I mention what happened this week?
Yeah, please do.
Like with the conversation we had the other day?
It depends. Is it personal?
No. So with regards to the energy,
Yeah.
for me, what I said I would feel more comfortable with Clark Kent because uh okay, so there was something I sent you and you were like, no, and I said, oh, I don't understand. And so we had a phone call and you were explaining it to me. Um, but
Oh, that.
I was
That was perception.
when, yeah, because we weren't really understanding something, and you were like, well, let's talk on the phone so that we
Mhm.
can communicate, which is always a great idea.
Yeah.
But, and sometimes, like, when your masculine energy comes out, well, which it does, but sometimes I start getting nervous. And I
Mm.
didn't really realize what it was because I'm like, this is Pete. He's
Right.
kind and he's not yelling at me, he's not berating me. But, and I told you that I said my nervous system started reacting and I
Mhm.
didn't know why. So sometimes I get nervous and like fumbly when I'm trying to say something and I didn't really understand why. And then what I realized was in the more masculine energy,
Mhm.
I still get triggered. Now,
Yeah.
thankfully, my brain is saying, this is Pete,
Right.
you're safe.
Logic, right.
But from certain things in my past, the masculine energy makes me feel nervous because it meant bullying, berating, shaming, and my body
I
is
was
still
doing nothing
healing.
of. Let's just set this record straight. I wasn't berating you or shaming you at all, was I?
No, you
Just
weren't.
okay.
It
All
was
right.
just your masculine energy came out.
If someone came in during that part of the talk and thinks like this guy,
Oh, right. So,
this guy, ding.
no,
Mhm.
but that's why like my brain was saying Pete is safe. He's not doing that.
Yeah.
Like he's not. It was just the energy of the masculine. Whereas I do better, and maybe that's why I was always good friends. Like men who were gay, I always felt way more comfortable with them.
Most women do.
Yeah.
Most
Uh,
women do.
because some of the
And
masculine
beta.
energy has been very abusive in the past.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I said that to you, like, this is how I reacted. I didn't know why,
Right.
because it was a very good conversation
Mm.
and you wanted to talk things out and go, okay, what are we understanding here?
Hmm.
And I was very grateful for that,
Right.
but I didn't know why my body was reacting like that. So but
Well,
that's
I'm
where
glad you.
I'm glad my brain is saying you're safe. It's okay. It's Pete.
Mm.
It's not
Right. Right. Right.
anyone else who from my
Yeah.
past.
Yeah.
Does that
I'm
make
glad you
sense?
were able to work through that. And more than that, let me know um, that was happening. Because as soon as I heard the first, it was a voice message, I knew where you were going right away. And I'm like, okay, that makes complete sense, total sense. But that's also why I also said to you, like any subject of consequence, whether it be good, bad, or indifferent, if it's of consequence, I want to do it through like this. And not even like sometimes I'll just escalate from text messaging to a voice message text. But if it's really a little bit deeper, I think I got to sneeze. Um, if it's deeper, yeah, I'm laughing. If it's deeper and of consequence, I want to do it live on the phone. And for me, that's worth waiting. And for me, that does two things. It helps if there's any negative, like really reactive, um, negative energy, it helps to dissipate that, A, right? And B, you'll get to it. Like we'll get to the truth as opposed to wasting all that energy and perhaps causing other injury, right? Or other insults that would not have come up otherwise. So I think it just really um, encourages yeah.
Did you lose words?
No, I didn't lose words. I just
Oh,
was using them differently. I was going to say. Well, what I was thinking is it just encourages a more harmonious spirit, let's say, to our communication.
well, and that's
Um,
what I really appreciate
there's,
about communicating
yeah,
with you.
mm,
Like we have this understanding,
yeah,
and because we both know maybe how we're feeling in that moment, um, we can at least we can talk things out, and I can share with you, I'm feeling like this, and I know there's maybe no reason in the
yeah,
sense of like now there's no reason, but it's
right,
my body from past experience
mhm,
coming up going, whoa, what's happening? And I'm so glad for this awareness because when I
right,
didn't know what it was, people would just say, what's wrong with you? Why are you? And I didn't know. That's why
yeah.
awareness is so important.
It's
Um,
important. It really is.
and you're very understanding.
Mhm.
And you also said, like, when I didn't understand what you were saying on the phone call, you said, explain back to me what you are getting out of this. And that's so helpful
Yeah.
because, like, if we're talking over each other, don't understand, it's like people start fighting when they don't understand each other.
I don't think we were talking over each other. I think we were giving each other space to say what we had to say. But I just wasn't, I'm not sure that I wasn't sure that you were completely listening and understanding what I was saying. That's why I asked you to repeat it back to me. What did you hear from what I heard, from what I said? And because I also know that in a certain energy, you may be in survival mode and really are not taking the only thing you're thinking about is I'm feeling threatened, not physically, right, but you're feeling threatened, you felt threatened, and you wanted to protect your space and you're frazzled or whatever, and you really didn't hear. Like, who can hear when they're in that type of a state? But so that's why I like calmly wanted to know that, because I wanted you to know that I wasn't trying to be um too forceful, because I know that I know some of your background and I know the traumas that you've had. Um, so that's why I was so glad that we were able to call a halt to the texting and the voice text even, and just like have that conversation. It was really important. In fact, I think I called you.
You did. And then I missed
Probably.
it because I was out of the room and I called you back and I was like, I always miss the phone call. It's so funny with cell phones because you can be out of the room and
Right.
miss calls.
I got to go into the shower. I'm like, okay, you can take your shower. The water's still going to run, but please let me know. Like, please tell me you understood. Like, repeat it back to me, because it's really important for me to know that you were safe, or you continue to feel safe with me. Because what if that goes unresolved? Like, that doesn't go anywhere. Like, that will carry off and maybe come 3, 4, 5 months out of down the line a little bit. And I'm like, what the hell is she saying like that for? Like, what is that about? What did I do now? And women are real good for that. Like, just generally, because you have the power, listen to me very carefully. Women have the power to hold themselves in grace, and then they'll just visit it later. They have the power to do that. Men, we have no such power. It has to come out. It has to come out. We just don't have that kind of attention span, speaking in general terms, to hold that energy. The energy has to go boom, and it's out and it's away. And 24 hours later, even if we didn't express it fully, it's for me at least, it's gone. Whereas you can hold it, harness it, and then 6 months later, when I say something that may trigger you, it's just more than what I'm triggering you with, but what happened 6 months ago, just before you had to get into the shower.
Except, see, yes, and I like these caveats that we have where it's like generally.
Listen,
Oh, I lost your video.
I'm listening.
Oh, um, with regards to, see, we talked about this before. When women have this tendency, or it can be shown on people talk like, oh, women do this, and they will bring things up from previous. It was I never wanted to be that person. I'm like, I want to resolve this in the moment. I want to have this conversation out, or like now that I have this understanding of maybe what is going on within me, I want to talk this out so that
Right.
I don't 5 months from now bring it up again because
Hmm.
that's unhealthy behavior and communication.
Right.
However, one thing I was wondering though, like women will get blamed for this, but do they not feel safe to have conversations where they're not allowed to express the thing, or the guy is not like wanting to have that conversation. So it builds up and builds up and builds up, and then it becomes a blowout months later because they weren't able to have healthy communication. And so
Mhm.
I'm like, women get blamed for that, but could it be because there's not this understanding and communication?
Yeah.
Or are you just immature and you don't want, like, I don't know. It could be a variety of reasons, right?
You,
But
you
that's
both
why
of
this is
them.
so important to talk about. And I'm
Yeah.
glad we're having this conversation. Like, this is really good.
Yeah. Hmm. Airing our dirty laundry.
No dirty laundry.
That adorable, right? Yeah.
But this is the sad thing.
My podcast.
There's such a division. And like, I've heard many women say, I'm not a feminist, but I believe in equality. I'm like, that is a feminist. What you're talking about is you're not an extreme feminist. Okay. There's different variations. Uh,
Right.
however, um, yes, I understand. Like you see an extreme version of something, you're like, no, I'm not that. But getting out of the extremes, let's talk about it. Uh, so there are those people, and it goes on both sides, and it's a reaction to each other's side, right? But when we start going, oh, men do this, women do this. Oh, I hate men, I hate women. Like, okay, no, really, you're triggered, you're reacting, you're angry with each other. I get it, and
Yeah.
that's not a healthy place to be. So to have these kind of conversations and to bring about like, okay, uniqueness, different who we are as different beings, um, our triggers, our like communication styles, our wounding, all of those things are contributing to this division.
Well said.
And so people get mad, and I'm like, it's understandable though. They're very upset,
A lot of energy in there. A lot of energy that needs
and
to
it needs to
find
be
a,
healed.
yeah, it needs to be healed. Right.
So
But this has
I'm
been
not,
an amazing conversation, Stephanie and Webb. And
yeah, we didn't even know what we were going to talk about.
yeah, yeah, we had no idea. We had no clue, but I think it turned out okay. What say you?
Yeah,
What
I
say you?
think this was good.
Any final thoughts? You usually ask me because I don't have any, truly, I will ask you this time. Any final thoughts, Stephanie Hannah Webb, about this
I think
amazing
what I just said was probably my final thought.
That sounds like a plan. I love that.
Yeah.
And I think I feel like no, I feel like there's a 2.0 to this conversation. I really do. So we'll explore that.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for joining me, Peter. Pete. I gotta, see, I'm so used to calling you Peter, but because I met you as Peter Carrington. So when I
Hmm.
meet somebody, I just kind of get stuck in their name like that.
Yeah,
But our show is Steph and Pete. So
yeah. The shorter, cooler version. Thanks, Steph.
thank you. Bye.